level Druid, a very lean version of the deck, just the one survival of the fittest and just the one exotic mount seller, which does seem to suggest he is tilting his decks a little bit towards aggro overall, just playing a very, very low curve Druid, playing Penflingers in his Demon Hunter as well, which is generally considered to be an anti-aggro tech a lot of the time. So we'll see whether it has the gas to keep going against the Mage here.
Honestly, for me, as we get into these mulligans in game number one, it's the Anubisath, right? Like, the deck's thinned down a little bit, but the Anubisath just feels like you're not really aiming one way or the other, right? It's a free minion that is sometimes huge, which to me is just a good card in Druid. So I really do like this build. I'm sure there are different styles you can go for in certain other matchups, but I think as an all-rounder, maybe if you're not expecting something specific from your opponent, I actually really like the way this Druid is built here from Zhym.
Yeah, of course, this is a battle between two of the French representatives in Division B, of which there are many. Two good friends as well, two practice partners, who I will presume split up for this week, as practice groups tend to do when there are matches between multiple players within that group. But still, very, very important matchup for both of them. Felkeine having a very good performance in Division B this season, currently sitting top of the standings with his 3-1 record.
Yeah, and although Felkeine's in Division B, a strong finish this season, I think will actually even just help out perception in general, because Felkeine, I'm probably going to sound harsh here, but didn't really blow us away in Season 1, did he? So this year. So I think just having, even though in Division B, having a strong finish, getting involved in playoffs will actually be a pretty big deal, not only for how people view him as a player, but for himself as well, because he does put a lot of work into this.
Secret dropped on 3 here from the Tempo Mage. It is Netherwind Portal, so Zhym would get to coin Overgrowth here if he had it available, but the threat of a Secret on turn 3 is generally pretty powerful in this matchup, because at least makes Zhym have to think twice about how he would play a curve out here. As it happens, if he had Overgrowth in his hand, he'd probably end up casting it regardless, because he could just coin, hit the counterspell, and then innovate out the Overgrowth. In the actual reality, it's the Netherwind Portal that he needs to deal with here instead.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to go for Broom, Hero Power, keep it simple. If it's a mirror entity, then so what? It doesn't really make a difference to this play. It's something that Zhym is more than happy to throw into there. So I actually like this approach overall. For a second, I was thinking about like the coin innovate into Runner, but there were just too many things that can go wrong with that play.
Yeah, exactly. If you need both the coin and the innovate, then your play can get messed up by counterspell. And obviously then the world where it is the mirror entity as well, that's potentially punishing. What is fantastic though for Zhym is the news that it's not counterspell, and he does get to power all the way through here to this Guardian Animals. Felkeine got a very nice minion off the Netherwind Portal though. Oh. And since Zhym did not hit the cleave here, yeah, you see, big sigh of relief from Felkeine, and he actually gets to keep some of his board this turn, which I don't think he would have been expecting.
Huge deal as well, because one runner was already in hand, and Zhym plays double Thresher, one pet. So it was incredibly likely he was going to get a Thresher there, and just did not.
Yeah, he hit the only bad scenario. Hit the only bad scenario.
Yeah. That's it. He didn't even need both Threshers, right? Just one would have been good enough.
Yeah.
But again, every time I see an Ubisoft get played in this list, I just love it. It's just an extra minion so often. Is this worth a devolving missiles, do you think, here, or do you think Felkeine's got juicier targets in mind?
It looks like he certainly does. I was certainly eyeing the devolving missiles that turn. And then, like, essentially with this same line, but just try and devolve, and then only... Basically, you want the devolve to go your way, so you only have to freeze one target, and then drop the Cyclone in the same way, but Felkeine's going for the consistent line that always pans out here. Lower ceiling, but, you know, more consistently solid turn.
It's have a bit of a rough turn now, though. Wow, pretty slow. Did have the options to do a few other things with the Lightning Bloom, but I think he also doesn't really need to overcommit right now, and the fact he has Mount Seller in hand, the Bloom, the Innovate and such could actually pay off a little bit more, and I think, most importantly, doesn't want to Bloom so he can Guardian Animals into those two Threshers at last next turn.
Yes. Brain Freeze lining up nicely here. I was again curious about the Devolving Missiles this turn, because it was a fairly clean Apexis Blast plus Devolving Missiles. You just Apexis Blast the Anubisath, and then have 3 missiles at 2 very nice targets, with the remaining Twilight Runner and the Teacher's Pet.
Right. Because that's it, like, the Anubisath's the weird one, isn't it? Where it could actually end up being buffed, or at least equal, if it gets 1 Devolving Missile, because it's a 5-drop naturally.
Ends up doing a very similar thing, though, dealing with the minions, giving up a little bit of his own board presence, pushing a little bit less damage, but this play enables him to drop Giant immediately. So a lot of upside to doing it this way around, certainly.
Yeah, no. There's some more options here for Zhym. A lack of ramp has really stifled this, but he could still go for Ysera this turn. But I guess most likely he wants the Guardian Animals out. It's just too much damage. Gets to clear the Giant. Ticks too many boxes.
Yeah, if only he could find some way to heal this Crimson Hothead for 2 before he made this play, which would actually be better for him.
Wait, would it? Why?
Because he could just attack both Threshers into it.
Oh,
and then the Giant would die.
For a second, I thought you... I thought for a second you thought its attack would, like, go back down, like it's enraged or something. I was like, wait, what? That makes no sense. But no, you're completely right. If he heals it, he gets the double attack off. This is the scary point in the matchup that happens pretty often, where Mage is just about holding on, but one more big turn from the Druid player, and you start to think you've just not got enough.
Zhym has to be sure that attack's happening. It's a very, very minor benefit to get 1 healing back on the 3-2 here. And I think with the potential of... actually, no, he's not playing Bog Beams in his list, right? That's why he's only running 1 Mount Seller. So actually, yeah, this attack does always happen. So that's absolutely fine. Thinking about some kind of like Bog Beam, Iron Bark combination, maybe getting to answer the Giant if you still have the attack.
Zhym should probably just be okay with a slow turn now. Not try and overdo it. Not try and like Bloom, Innovate, Gidra, Iron Bark or something, you know, like a bit over the top as a response here. It's just 188. Felkeine does naturally run Conjurer's Calling, but I do think with the power plays he has access to, the power plays Zhym has access to very soon, probably going to be enough to defend.
Yeah, Felkeine very much gassing out at this point, though. Just a Spell Wing and a Magic Trick left to hold on to. So this Mount Seller turn now, potentially, could just be lights out. Is there a Gidra play that's cleaner? Is it just Innovate Ysera and feel good about your life?
Is it ever Survival Instincts?
Well, that's not a card in his hand.
Survival Instinct, Survival of the Fittest. I always want to call it that. I always want to call it Survival Instinct for some reason. Yeah, Survival of the Fittest, sorry. So rough for him, because if he didn't have to overload to do it, I think there's a very real payoff for having, again, another slow turn. But because he has to overload with the Bloom, it just doesn't feel strong enough.
Yeah, the big problem is just the threat of the Secret on the other side, which I think is why Zhym just committed to the Innovate first, is that he wanted to test Secret information before he committed to a line. But because he learned nothing, he really hasn't been given any information about what play doesn't get punished here, right? Because Mount Seller or Ysera is obviously like a huge punish if it's Mirror Entity. He still has potential for like Spellbender to be a punish. He just knows that it's not Counterspell or Netherwind Portal at this point.
Yeah, and sorry, I was just loving Felkeine there on camera, just like, yeah, play this, play that. These are going to be good for me if you do this. And then the Ysera came down, and he was like, no. It's probably the one of few plays I didn't want you to make.
Jandis, really nice pull off the top, though.
Okay. Seen worse minions.
Devolving Missiles again.
Is that good or bad? I guess 12 health is a lot to deal with, right?
It is, yeah.
So that's the argument. You're less bothered about the attack and more about the sheer amount of health that Ysera has.
Especially if survival of the fittest is going to land over the next couple of turns. It's just a really difficult minion to clear at the moment. But his hand is so gassed out that maybe there's an argument to just taking the highest value thing, or maybe even Icicle and just trying to force a card draw off it at some point, but that seems ambitious.
Yeah. It just wasn't great, was it? Just wasn't a great set of choices.
No.
He has pushed Zhym to the limit, though. 9 health now. Felkeine's got one heck of a board. Zhym down to only 1 broom in his deck now, I think.
Disgusting couple of dragons straight off the top. Yeah, 1 broom remaining for Zhym.
Does he just need to try and draw it?
What to do?
Can he get
Probably
enough
cost
work
him
done
too much
with...
mana.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if he can get enough work done with Gidra instead. Answer, not really. Again, it's that problem of just not being able to make at least 1 value trade into the Giant. Otherwise, maybe you could use it to clear up Giant and Waxadread alongside the Ysera.
That's why I kept having Broom in my head, right? Like, the 8/8 just killing the Giant is just a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Wow, this is just really tough.
Still just looks like Gidra Overgrowth Crystal Power to me. Yep, very, very close to getting that ordering wrong there for Zhym. Take Waxadread, trade in, trade with the Ysera. Heal up, yeah. This has to be the line I looked at, but it's still not really dealing with the problem. There's still a lot of damage coming back at him the other way. Especially with the potential of these 2 Violet Spell Wings.
Yeah, there's also the One Thief now, right? Which can get all sorts of crazy.
Yep.
Wonder if I imagine Felkeine wants to actually just kill this Ysera before he plays Devolving, if he wants to play Devolving this turn. But without that, he won't be able to activate his One Thief.
Yeah, problem is if you kill the Ysera, it's so much damage that's not going face. Like, you're not winning this game on board from this point, surely.
Well, oh, wow. Okay. I was meaning more like he could have traded double Spellwing in and then Arcane Missiles to try and finish it off or something like that, right? I don't think that would have been a terrible response and you wouldn't lose tons of damage. So it's just Nova push face until we get there next.
I think so, right? Like, I think you're fairly confident there's no Broom in your opponent's hand right now, so if you can just stick this board twice and get it to connect face twice, you have a chance with the Arcane Missiles.
Because it's the same as Nova, but better.
Yeah. You still don't ping the minion, right? You just ping the face?
No, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm watching now.
Bees?
Suddenly, because that free Zhym does not have much room on the board to go really nuts with the Mount Seller.
Wait, Bees is insane. He has a Stormwind champion. Hello? Let's go! Stormwind champion Bees interaction. Things I never thought I'd live to see, and I still haven't.
Yeah, and it's still not gonna happen.
No. Bog Beam. Zhym just hard fishing. More portals. Would love a broom at the end of this and a board space. Is that defender but not active?
And you shouldn't,
yeah.
shouldn't trade into the Spellwing, right? Okay, oh, okay, sure. Never mind.
He's got Blue Mother Nimseth, yeah.
Yeah, I was if he hero powered, he actually shouldn't trade into the Spellwings, right? Because it's actually extra good damage. It was just a weird interaction, that's all. Normally there's no problem like trading one armor for one attack. But...
Yeah. I'm honestly really surprised at the Blessing pick over the Bees there, just because I guess the Bees took up too much of his own board space and he wanted to fill it up with big dragons anyway, but he didn't have the Anubisath defender at that point, right? When he made that decision. So he didn't have any defense in his hand at that point, so it felt like just clearing maximum damage off the board was the best way to go about that turn, but Zhym took some risks and absolutely got rewarded for them because he did find the Anubisath and was rewarded with a much bigger board state than he would have ended up with the Bees.
Yeah, we do miss our opportunity to tick it off Hearthstone Life bingo.
Yeah.
So maybe another day.
True mastery takes dedication.
Oh, wow.
Is Zhym going to win this game of Hearthstone, Sol?
Certainly looking that way. Felkeine does still have outs. Felkeine no longer has outs. And up until this point, obviously Zhym is going to check the information on the secret, which we know is Ice Barrier, but Zhym is still considering various face secrets here. But up until the last healing card was drawn from Crystal Power to pull Zhym up out of range, Felkeine still had outs to just generate a fireball or something to end this game. Still has Evocation, still has like 2 1-makers into Magic Trick or 2 1-makers into Evocation off the top. Right. So he had ways of going about it, and he has 2 Solarian Primes in his deck as well, which I think now, because there's no way for Felkeine to generate a Pyroblast and play a Pyroblast in the same turn without Sorcerer's Apprentice. So because of that, I think one of the 2 Solarian Primes off the top were the only outs for Felkeine at this point.
Or to the Stormwind Champion. No? Okay. Wow. One of those, frankly, rare games, honestly, sort of for Mage, where we see it run out of resources. I think earlier on in Grandmasters, we saw it happen a little bit more often, but as players have got more comfortable and like just simply got better at managing the deck and managing the outs, that we don't actually see that often there, that Felkeine just runs out of stuff.
Yeah, early builds of the deck had too many 1-mana spells in them, I would say, and slowly but surely a few of those got cut away for Wand Makers, Kobold Spellkins, just things that, you know, kept giving you gas, kept you going. Because the original builds of the deck had like 2 Crown Session, 1 AI, and that was about all the resource generation in the deck apart from Evocation. So yeah, obviously sometimes you're going to run out of gas then if you don't hit your Apprentice Cyclone combo early on. But the deck's evolved, and it really does not happen that often anymore, so it is a rare game from Felkeine's perspective. And even then, because he generated the extra Astromancer at the start of the game, he still had just like a 1 in 8, 1 in 7, I think, of just drawing Prime right at the end, which was still potentially game-winning. If it could throw a Freeze out, if it could just throw a Pyroblast at the face, if it could cast Puzzle Box, any number of things it could have put together to get the job done.
Yeah, and here we go. We see Felkeine going for the Demon Hunter now, and I do believe it is going to be a Demon Hunter mirror. And yep, those Penflingers ain't going anywhere. Both players bringing 2. And honestly, these guys, at least when we were testing the deck, do a surprise or can do a surprising amount of damage and can be pretty tough in a lot of matchups. There's not only repeat removal tools, but also just that extra fate damage that Demon Hunter's kind of always looking for. In the mirror, I'm not quite sure how they work, because it's not like you generally want to just be like throwing out spells just all the time. So it's not as if you can reliably get repeat damage. But I'm very interested to see how this goes when they're against each other here.
Yeah, I do think they primarily come in as an anti-aggro tool, just to be able to deal with early face hunters, early aggro rogue minions. You know, once the 3/1 attacks the first time, you don't let it attack again. You're just able to clear it out very nicely with the Penflinger, that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm the same as you. I was kind of surprised at how much utility they offer in matchups where they wouldn't really seem that appropriate, when they can just be consistent forms of damage, because the deck is kind of modified slightly to maximize the potential of the Penflinger, with the Altruist in there as well, with Consume Magic, which comes in as an additional cheap spell that you can use to activate Penflinger, but then also plays very nicely with the Altruist because it's another cheap card that can be outcasted for a positive effect, which is obviously something that you want to have alongside Altruist. So I think the deck's built very intelligently, honestly.
Yeah, and just continue, as the guys are doing the Mulligan now, just pointing out the the things that are missing from this build, from these players, you're not going to see any glaive-bound adepts in their lists. That they're not there. You're not going to see a Magtheridon either, which is still just dotting in and out of people's lists depending on what they're feeling at the time. And also as well, you're not going to see any Horde Pillagers, which also players are kind of just messing around with depending on what the meta is, whether there's too much weapon remove when you need extra juice to keep going. So there are cuts obviously that have to be made, but I am interested to see how these Penflingers do perform. And see nice early game options.
I would add Battle Fiend to that list as well as a card that is not in here as well, that is getting more and more common as time goes on.
Yep, not going to argue with that one too much.
Hearthstone superstar Ike was bragging recently that he once again broke the meta and posted the best Demon Hunter list, you know, months ago, and people are only now coming around to play what he was playing all along.
Yeah, get to work on Shaman again, Ike. It's needed. This can evolve into a really weird matchup, though. Both players, I think that the card to keep a real eye on is the Eldrazi Warblades, because you can start swinging health in like really large numbers in this matchup, and until the game is finished, even if you're on 1 health and your opponent's on 15, 16, 18, whatever, like you can still win if you have hold of an Eldrazi Warblades. It's actually pretty nutty.
That is absolutely true, but I do still feel like Marrow Slicer is more important, just because it's that all-in-one package. It's a straight-up activator for Blade Dance, so you don't have to trade early minions. It's more damage represented solo to the opponent than the Lifesteal Weapon is. Plus, it just automatically activates Soul Shard Lapidary on curve if you haven't done any Soul Fragment stuff before that as well. So it's like a one-card solution in the matchup. If you were to offer me one or the other and said I have to choose, I'd still largely take the Marrow Slicer, I think.
Oh, sure. It's the Eldrazi's the card that can make the games go weird, whereas the Marrow Slicer is the card you actually want to just win the game. I think is a decent split there. We do see the power here, Zhym. Soul Shard Lapidary just going to drop down. Felkeine already down to 13. And not many options here to heal. As you can already see, second slice, then twin slice, second slice. If he had the Warblades equipped, then this number can change quite dramatically. But doesn't have access to that heal. It'd be tough. Could use a Shard Chatter this turn with the help of the Panthera to save some of his health.
Yeah, which does seem reasonable. But this curve has worked out so nicely for Zhym up until this point, because he's established himself as the aggressor. And he's just played his most aggressive turn on 5, which is really exactly how this curve is designed to work, right? Of Marrow Slicer into Soul Shard Lapidary, because then your opponent just has to panic and go, oh my god, I just took so much damage, there's a 5-5 on the board, spend their turn removing the 5-5, and then you get a free turn to Skull because they haven't developed anything themselves. So can Felkeine do anything to mitigate that is the question. Like, can he remove this and actually make a proactive turn himself? It's incredibly difficult to do in this situation.
It is. The Shard Chatter will deal with it and end the turn as a 3-2.
Yeah,
and could have still ended up with a Spirit Jailer. He did choose to use the Blade Dance instead, which I think is a little bit questionable, because he could have just had this board with a 3-2 and there still be a Blade Dance in hand. Maybe he's thinking that he needs the Soul Shards in the deck to draw.
Oh!
So I was just making noises now.
That's I'm no longer thinking what the best play is, I'm thinking what the coolest Penflinger play is.
Yeah.
That's that noise.
Pretty good so far, right? Soulshare going to be able to clear off the 1-3 pretty easily here.
Yeah. And next turn, he has Penflingers again, but alongside Eldrazi Warblades with Chaos Strikes as well. It's pretty nice.
But this game is very close. I think even just Marrow Slicer, does he have the mana next turn? I think Marrow Slicer's second slice is actually the best way to use his mana for maximum damage. And then he still has the mana for Lapidary twin slice, second slice next turn.
Yes.
But this is where this is where that point that I raised earlier starts to happen. If this gets this close and then one player has Aldraki plus weapon buffs, the numbers start to change a lot. It's so crazy. Even drawing soul fragments.
Don't think it gets played again. I think Zhym will value the hero power here for the 1 extra damage, 1 extra healing. Does indeed. 18 plays 5.
And without a Warblades of his own, there's just not a lot he can do.
Ooh, that's huge though. Okay, Chaos Strike. So you can still Twin Slice, Second Slice, Hero Power, Panther, but it's no additional healing, but it does continue to set up the 2-turn race at least.
What if he just does Lapidary? That ever better?
I mean, it could be.
Just because it puts the biggest minion on board as well. We can see a Blade Dance is there, of course, but from Felkeine's perspective, it's just a big dude because it's not as susceptible to Shard Shatter as the Panther could be. It's tough. Maybe he does just need to draw into the Warblades next turn for any chance. Ooh,
all right.
That's an added bonus I didn't think about actually.
Okay.
Oh. This match is so great.
And now, suddenly, Zhym just out of the big heals here. Wandmaker could help him out.
I grow impatient.
Yeah, there's a few options, isn't there? He could go for the Consume Magic to draw a card, but he'd have to Blade Dance first with a hero power. Or maybe not with a hero power if he wants to use Penflinger instead.
Yeah, seems kind of gross.
Impatient.
Zhym does still have both Twin Slices left remaining in his deck, alongside 1 Soul Shard Lapidary.
Oh, wait, he shouldn't have done this, right? In this order? Oh, okay, okay.
You don't pick the ones.
Disaster!
Always after, yeah.
No additional healing!
He heals for 3, puts himself up to 11.
Yep. Felkeine has 5 from the Lapidary.
Not enough.
Yep, 2 from the Second Slice, 1 from the Hero Power, and he has 8. Has 1 Penflinger that he can fit in alongside all of that as well.
Yeah, and this is one of the drawbacks of when you've not managed to actually play your bigger minions out earlier on. Like when you're stuck with like 2 Lapidaries, Kane. Like these are all the expensive things you can't weave in a turn that well together. Whereas obviously the Twin Slice and such can actually, and Chaos Strikes can be weaved in with these minions. So yeah, this is really tough. This is a very close game actually.
Impatient.
I mean, it's important not to count this out yet for Felkeine, because currently, Zhym is not showing lethal on the other side either.
It's true. There's no way you can draw, right?
Like, as far as we can see it, Felkeine currently has the consistent setup here. Zhym doesn't. It's actually Zhym that needs to find answers, and those soul fragments certainly do count. There's the Marrow Slicer! Marrow
That'll
Slicer, hero power, Penflinger, the hero we always needed, Raven.
Yeah, and like I said, in the key cards, we knew this was always going to come down to the Penflingers making the difference. Extra bit of damage there to be the one that cleans this up. Zhym gets a win in the Demon Hunter mirror, but you can see how close that matchup can be with just how much the health can change on both sides of the board, whether it's Soul Fragments or Aldraki Warblades, whether there's Blade Dances to remove instead of having to use your face, and so on. Like, the matchup looks very silly in one aspect, where it's like both players are just hitting each other in the face, but one, underuse of a tool, or if you skip lapidaries when you could have weaved them in and spent the most amount on curve on at that point, can trip you up a little bit, because we saw then that was so close where 2 lapidaries and a cane in hand with 8 mana just isn't good enough a lot of the time. You need to get those cards out almost as quickly as you draw them in a lot of cases.
First off, other soft drinks are available. Secondly, yeah, it's a very interesting matchup personally for me, because like it's almost so dumb that it becomes really smart, the matchup, right? Because it's just both players completely ignoring board and just trying to send every point of damage face at all times. But the thing is, like, when both players are trying to do that, it's actually quite difficult to be the one that earns the right to do that, right? Because you kind of have to like force your opponent to accept that they're on the back foot. You have to force them to start doing something defensive, which is what Zhym was able to do in the early game against Felkeine. I personally agreed with Felkeine's like late game sequencing to try and find a way back out of it, because I think he was always going to need the extra card from the Panthara anyway. So I felt okay with him getting out of the way that turn, regardless. As it happened, he did just about draw through his deck to the point where the double lapidary was going to be able to end the game. But Zhym just found that Marrow Slicer off the top, which is a very, very big deal indeed, because now he finds himself just with this Highlander Priest left to win with.
Yeah, really tough one. Going to be Demon Hunter once again for Felkeine. Zhym, though, has a pretty fantastic opening, honestly. Being able to coin 2 into 2 and also have Kaj and Penance. Like, this is almost the opening hand for a Highlander Priest, right? Like, do you want any more? I guess Zephyrus is the only thing that makes this that much better.
It's honestly very, very close to perfect. I think key to this matchup is to take as little damage from minions as you can. And then that gives you a significant amount of options in terms of playing for Outlast, playing for Survival, playing for Tempo, trying to stick huge threats. I think Highlander Priest more often wins by sticking a huge threat, by Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, big Apotheosis minion, that kind of thing, because they don't have the consistency of the renews and everything else that the 2-of list has to be able to survive. But the key to both of them is just not to lose the board early and be pushed down to 20, 18 come turn 5 or 6, because the Demon Hunter's curve has just beat you up. And while that will happen less often against a no Battle Fiend deck, it's still something that's very, very possible. And because you are a Highlander deck in this case as Zhym, you would be expected to curve out worse than your opponent. But that's absolutely not the reality here.
Yeah.
This is it, right? Look at the difference. Look at the difference from Felkeine being ahead on board here to being behind on board. Suddenly, he just has to respect minions and send weapon charges in. Are you about to tell me to go face anyway?
Well, let me peruse the list. So there's actually only Zephyrus that can kill a weapon in this Highlander list for Zhym. Sure. My question was, could he not have equipped weapon? Maybe gone face, probably, whatever. But he did have Soul Share and Blade Dance next turn. And I just wonder if that would have been enough to maybe save the weapon swing for a turn. Obviously, if there's an additional minion like there is now, well, if you just didn't crack the cards, then maybe it looks worse in some respects, but are you expecting the curve to continue? I'm not saying it was a bad play. I'm just trying to think, like, in this matchup against this opening, do you actually have to try and actually outvalue the Priest, if that makes sense, instead of just, like, swing your weapon into minions?
Well, I think Blade Dance is your best removal, right? Like, it's your best tool where, say, if Zhym does make Dragon Queen Alexstrasza at some point this game, Blade Dance is the card that can deal with it, whereas Shard Shatter can't. So I think what Felkeine did here was try and set up this, right, where he got to use a Shard Shatter to clear the board as opposed to using a Blade Dance, and it then preserves a Blade Dance for later on for maybe a more problematic board later.
Alas, poor warlock.
It is a sacrifice, though. Like, he is missing damage. That's certainly a thing, and missing damage is relevant in this matchup.
Yeah, decent draw. Like, the 0-cost Blade Dance is nice. Twin Slice, not one you're really looking for from Skull, honestly. Lapidaries are like priority number 1, I think, from Skull half the time.
Oh!
Well, that's just insane.
Oh, it makes me so happy whenever you get this card as Priest in this matchup. I don't know why. It never quite has the impact you think it's going to. Like, you think you've just ended the game because you've got Aldraki Warblades, right? But, like, I still just get
Just
so
tell your-
hype about it.
Just tell your opponent you've got it and like, okay, well, concede.
Yeah.
It's just a nice bone. It's so much better than some of the other cards you can get.
Yes,
right? From
exactly.
that, I think that's the thing, right? I look at Blade Dance, not going to do much. Shard Chatter, not going to do much.
3 mana Bloodfen Raptor. Oof.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's because it is just a lot better than most of the other cards. It feels good.
That's huge. That is huge. I believe 5. Yep. The full package coming out here from Felkeine, being able to take care of this board and stick a huge board afterwards. Zhym does have the one answer that Priest generally has to this situation, though, which is that Soul Mirror. I believe it was Felkeine himself who was burned on the other side of this last week, where I criticized him for not taking a Soul Mirror for later in the matchup, just so this scenario didn't happen.
Oh, now we're going to see the potential rarity of the triple choice Seerman.
Damage stacking, though. Damage stacking on the other side for Felkeine.
It is. We go for a big heal here with the Warblades and the Soul Shard Lapidary. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, ho, 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 ho. It's all coming together. That Murazond in combination with that Eldraki Warblades can represent a ton of healing now, because you can just steal any Twin Slices, Chaos Strikes, etc. that Felkeine has available while just having an Eldraki Warblades already in play. But he can't really set that up this turn, because there's the problem on board of the 5/5 that I think, as Raven mentioned, we might just look at the triple Seermat here, although he might also want to preserve the Broom for Apotheosis later.
He could just Warblades Penance heal, right? Like, that deals with it and heals a bit, and you still have one charge of Warblades left.
Sure.
Like, it was an option to kill this off.
It was. It does take 5 damage on your face, though, which I do think you want to avoid. Like, obviously, you get the healing back to an extent from the Warblades, but I think ideally you'd like to get all of that back by swinging at your opponent's face, if at all possible.
Yeah, the payoff is potentially this, that we might well see this turn, right? If you have the Warblades equipped, you can play the Murazond into this turn.
Exactly.
Whereas without the Warblades equipped, yes, you took more damage, but now all this potential huge weapon swing that you can get is reduced by the effect of Zhym doesn't have the Warblades, and he can't do both next turn.
Right.
As it wasn't the the craziest big weapon buff turn in the world, but it was not bad.
Yeah, it's 6 or 7 healing that Zhym would love to have access to this turn.
Kind of the weird thing here, with no minions that Felkeine played, there's actually no target for Penance, which is a bit of a weird positive there for Felkeine.
Right. Oh! It's just lethal.
Just has to be, doesn't it?
Demon
Wait a
Companion?
minute. Is it lethal? 2 damage? And then 2 from Penflinger, then 2 from Penflinger?
Oh! Yes! Down to 6! Down to 4! Eldraki Warblades on top of that? Okay, you set it up over 2. This seems fine.
Yeah. If you had just a little bit more mana... Oh my, so sick. Is Penflinger just the best card in the game?
Oh! Yo!
Kronks.
Kronks, Apo, Broom. Raven, you were getting excited about the triple Seermat. I said he probably wanted to save it for this exact scenario. That is a full clear and a
Look at
giant
Felkeine.
heal.
Oh.
And it might just be a dead Felkeine.
There are still 2 Penflingers in hand though, Sodpole, so I don't think we can rule anything out yet.
It's also an 8/7. Oh my god, that is the draw. That is
Told you.
the draw.
Such a beautiful
Blade, Penflinger, Blade Dance.
Yeah. 8,
Not over yet.
9. It's so close every turn, just with double Penflinger.
Oh, so funny.
This is one off right now. Penflingers are the nuts, I'm telling you.
Does he ever just play them both?
Just to have them as 1/1s?
Yeah, because what's Zhym gonna do? Because without a spell, they're still kind of the same anyway, right? Like, if he doesn't draw a spell next turn, they're actually just worse than if he'd played them now.
Yeah, but he does have 12 cards left in his deck. So by having 2 Penflingers in his hand, he can almost still go long, right? Where he can just convert every spell into an enormous amount of damage.
I'll Trios off the top.
Sure, yeah, that too. Big deal.
Penflingers now deal 2!
That's Kane. That's Kane.
So now there's actually Murozond Inner Fire.
Or Murozond Penance.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, Penance probably better.
You think this is your time? It is mine. Hide behind your servants. I will still fight.
But bear in mind, Felkeine has 30 health. It's not like this is setting up counter-lethal quite yet.
Right. Exactly.
Oh!
Twin Slice!
Is that it?
That's it! That's it! Each Twin Slice deals 4, Raven.
Imagine not playing Penflingers in every single deck of Hearthstone ever.
Tell me about it.
I give up.
There we go. Zhym knows. He also plays Penflingers in his deck. He can count. And that is going to be Felkeine at least taking a win there over Zhym in that game. So there is a light still left for him there, as he does have his Mage and Druid left over against this Highlander Priest. What a close game, Saul. That was actually wild, honestly.
Yeah, all the way down to the wire at the end. And obviously, the second Penflinger looked like it kind of ended the game there because it just gave Felkeine so much inevitability in terms of long-term damage. But you've got to think, right, like, that isn't necessarily a Penflinger, but sometimes it's a Glaive-bound Adept. Sometimes it's like some other card, right, which still deals a ton of damage immediately, but is also then a huge threat on board. Like, obviously, we're excited about Penflingers because they're sweet. Whether or not it's actually the optimal way to play the deck, I'm in earnest, I'm not 100% sure, but I hope people keep trying to find out because it's a lot more fun to watch than the regular version of the deck, I think.
Now we're going to go in the Mage versus Priest here. And of course, just a reminder, Zhym is on the Highlander Priest, sorry. So it's not quite the matchup we've been seeing a little bit more commonly in Grandmasters, at least in Europe. Is this more favorable for the Mage because of the inconsistency of Highlander Priest?
It's hard to say. Mage can lose board to just very nice curves from the 2-of version. They just hit like mid-range dragons and draconic studies into just big minions that land too early. That can be a struggle for Mage to deal with because they don't really deal with big stats that well. They just kind of freeze it and blow past it. That's all they're really able to do. But Highlander Mage has more tricks up its sleeve, right? With Zephyrus, with Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, with Mindrender Lucia, all of these cards that you don't see in the 2-ofs version. Mm-hmm. So I honestly don't think there's a huge difference between the two matchups, personally.
Okay, well, Zhym is once again, and this is probably more of a nod to the Highlander build itself than Zhym being lucky or anything, but it is a relatively low curve Highlander deck, right? There is only really like Cabal, Shadow Priest, Kronks, Galakron, Tiamat, Soul Mirror, Murozond, Dragon Queen, Plague at the top. Everything else is actually very, very cheap. So even though it's like kind of looks like Zhym's opening hands have been very strong, well, like 2/3 of the deck are good opening hand kind of cards. So
right.
It's not too much of a weird one. I think when we speak about Highlander decks, everyone expects them like most of the time for you to draw like 1/1 cost and like 1/5 cost, 1/9 cost or something.
Your mind is not your own.
Double trade through the mirror images. You get a pretty high value target here. If actually no, there's no point, right? Yeah, no, I'm a bit stupid. Don't worry. Moving on.
Good talk. I like it. Yeah. They break it down like that, Sol. Maybe the devolving missiles come out, and although he loses the acolyte, probably could have gone a lot worse. Not being able to ping that 2-1 is actually very funny.
Yeah, still not that big of a deal. Obviously, very unfortunate that the massively overstatted 2-cost minion just got to hang around.
Oh, it says explode!
Felkeine just going to try and do as much work here as he possibly can with the spell damage missile. Hello? Can we reverse the outcome of those missiles, please? Devolving was supposed to go right. Arcane was supposed to go left. Okay? Can we just run that back? No? Alright.
He does get another go as well. If he trades in the spell wing. Seems fine. Most importantly, Felkeine is getting quite close to being able to just drop this Mana Giant out soon.
That is true. Now this this Raise Dead that I was erroneously looking at on the previous turn does start to offer some potential value for Zhym at least, but the Devolving Missiles does mess with it to an extent.
I'm just staring at Mind Render, and then staring at Evocation, and then staring at Mind Render like, come on, it can't happen now, can it?
I wonder.
Apparently it can.
He knows there's a 1 arcane missiles and a coin for sure, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's just enough as is, right? You know, just saying, okay, I'll burn the coin, use up the missiles.
His Mana Giant resets to 8 here, but it gets very cheap very quickly when you're playing with your opponent's hand in its entirety. But it would be something quite spectacular here to get it all the way down. I don't think
Not
it's going to happen.
play Font of Power, of course, I imagine.
No.
Probably worth playing the magic trick, though, right? Huh. I was a little bit surprised by that.
Yeah.
Because you could just pick the worst one. There are some bad ones to choose from. What does Felkeine have in his raised dead pool, actually, now? Because that might just be worthwhile as well. If you can play them out. I mean, maybe not cast them both. But...
That's a good point. He has the spell wings in there, right? That he was trading in for the arcane missiles earlier, along with a wand thief, I believe. Zhym also chose to hit face, which gives like a standing apotheosis target.
Yeah.
After he knows he gave apotheosis to his opponent there as well, which is kind of strange.
Yeah. Not sure about that, honestly.
No. Did not look the cleanest. Obviously, all those cards Felkeine just played also discounted his Mana Giant, even though he didn't have it in his hand at the time, because he was playing cards that did not start in his deck, and the Mana Giant counter is locked to him, so it continues to get discounted when it comes back.
Yeah, it's not locked to the minion, right? It's like an aura, isn't it? Like, it's stuck to the player.
Yes.
Now we're cooking.
The evasive Chimera. This game went in a very weird direction.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Cram Session is a big deal because Felkeine does not want to run dry on cards again with this mage. No, that was about the card he needed.
Again.
Oh, okay, okay. Nothing to pair it with, though.
Tricast? He's
Pretty
seen the
good
hand.
knowledge here. Yeah.
Yep, he's seen the hand. He knows there's no good answer to the giant, so he feels comfortable just dropping it.
Off the top. Okay. I felt like it was always going to happen.
Takes the Soul Mirror for Security Blanket later if he can't deal with it now. His apathy's very nice, though. Just drop the Evasive Chimera. He might even just choose to hold the Wave of Apathy here, feeling comfortable to tank 8 if he needs to, yeah? I kind of like this, honestly. Very secure at 26 right now.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think in that position, I would have waved, and I think I would have been wrong. I think
Yeah.
I would have thrown away a resource on 26 health.
Exactly.
It is scary, though.
Zhym has limited resources right now, and these 26 points of health are one of them, so I totally agree with him using them here. Just investing 8 health into milking a Wave of Apathy for longer, especially since the 2 cards in combination, right? The Wave of Apathy and the Soul Mirror are so
Right.
insane together. Yo!
Wait a minute!
Insta.
Oh,
I'm
Felkeine's
a
gonna
priest.
be
I
upset.
want the Lucent Bark. Give it to me.
Felkeine's going to be upset. I can feel it. What? Does he not want to wave?
You certainly can, but it's not mandatory here because you're getting the better of this Soul Mirror by so much anyway, right? Because you have the poisonous minion to clear up afterwards, and you're a priest ending with a Lucent Bark. I think this is fine.
Well, I want a Deathwing!
He could have got a Deathwing anyway off the raised edge, right?
But I want my Deathwing on the board!
Yeah.
Either way, Felkeine unhappy with the outcome of this game so far, but he is not out of it by any means. Still has another cram session, still has Mana Cyclone, has that backup Conjurer's Calling. Now he has the Mana Giant.
Oh,
Things
it's another...
aren't terrible yet.
It's another giant, but it was one off being playable. But Zhym here picks up the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. You don't think you jam that on curve. You press the advantage when you have it against Tempo Mage.
Be careful, Sol. I'm going to take this advice quite literally. You do not think you jam things on curve is all I heard right then. You showered me for losing games of Hearthstone. I'm blaming you now.
Honestly, I think if you followed that advice, you'd improve your Hearthstone play.
Ah, okay. I know what my goal next week is. I'm going to keep track. It just has to be Power of Creation, right?
Yes, Giant Conjure again. Better than a Power of Creation, isn't it?
No, so I meant the choice. The choice.
I see. Oh!
Alrighty then. How many times in this game can we can it flip sides here as to who we think is winning?
So, Penance and Heal gets him a Lucent Bark res back. That's clearly the most important thing. Nothing else matters.
You know what I'd love, actually? If Lucent Bark effect was across the whole board. So if either player healed, it would count. Like the old Eaglehorn bow. Remember that?
No? What do you mean? Wait, what?
Eaglehorn bow used to proc if
Oh,
your
God,
opponent's
for both
secrets went
people's
off.
secrets.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
fast. The mirrors were ridiculous.
Yes.
One mana evasive Worm here going to help Zhym out a lot to get through this taunt.
Yeah. Can't deal with the Troublemaker, though, which is a very, very big deal here. Does mean that Felkeine's not just counted out of this yet, because he does still have the heat to keep going for quite some number of turns here with Power of Creation, with Jandis, with a Cyclone turn.
Yeah. I think Power of Creation is the most likely to have the biggest impact right now. Safeguards look pretty solid to me. Obviously not the best minions he would have wanted, but I think Safeguard's pretty decent. In a post-Soul Mirror world, that Soul Mirror was Zhym's natural one, right? He didn't, like, make that somehow, did he?
No, he did make that.
Oh, he did? Oh.
Remember, he picked it off the Renew. He was fishing for a giant answer, and then he picked it off the Renew because he couldn't find the immediate answer.
Yeah, no, you're right, you're right. Nice. Got the trade that he probably wanted there to defend his 6-2 once again. Only Nova, though, can help clean that up.
Hits the Solarian here. It's kind of nice.
Pretty good
Solarian
too.
or Lab Partner. Yeah, actually, there was pretty much a lot of good options there. Even the Cyclone gave him a turn. Oh!
Double rush with Holy
What?
Nova?
Hello?
doesn't make that much difference, right? Because it doesn't actually clear them off. It's still good though, don't get me wrong, but
Zhym, did you not want to trade the 3/5 into the 3/1 and then get healing on it from the Holy Nova?
he's like, no, I didn't actually sell. My 2/1 trades into that 3/1, I think you'll find.
I think he did. Oh, really? Really?
I love
really? Really?
It's exactly the play I would have made, Zhym. Don't you worry, mate.
Okay.
Oh, another rush minion here. Same one for Felkeine. Does Felkeine have a heal option?
I will crush your delusions of grandeur.
Oh my
Oh, that-
goodness.
I was just about to say, has Felkeine got over the line right now? No, is the answer to that question. And with 2 Mana Cyclones on Lab Partner, I think at this point, Felkeine kind of wishes he might have been playing Jamboree's list so he could play some Observers instead.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I would say never punished, but he would have a Loosened Bark this turn if he'd have done it the other way around. So he's still being punished! 4 out of 5, look at that.
Always kind of punished.
Yeah.
Ooh, potion go again? Well, it's gonna help the Mana Cyclone, right? And surely
Yeah.
he's aiming for Mana Cyclone this turn.
Yeah. Yeah. You Cyclone Potion. Yep. This is it. Oh, just get out. Actually get out. What is this? Come on. Come
It's
on.
lethal. I believe they call it lethal, so.
Come on.
It's slow. That's exceptionally good. Oh my.
It's already reached the point where Felkeine actually now needs a puzzle box to ruin all of this for Zhym. No, that's just perfect. Cool. All right, moving on.
Oh, the counter spell as well.
Is that better than a 4/8 this turn? Like, if you heal your
yeah.
face, you get a 4/8 this turn.
It's way better. You know, he knows what his hand is, right? So he doesn't want the One Thief to cast a spell.
Uh-huh.
Right? Right? Right?
Okay.
Just commit to Pyroblast. That's what I wanted to see that turn. Just be like, you know what? There's only one way I'm going to win this game, and it's with a Pyroblast to the face.
Interesting. So
Just have to Cyclone again.
Cone of Cold off the other Cyclone, yeah. It's the outright. Oh, he's just gonna double spell damage Flame Strike next turn.
Okay.
All right, sure. Yeah, seems good.
Definitely want to see Zhym play around AoE there and not heal that turn. I'm joking, of course. It's a big push, though. Felkeine down to 13. Felkeine, Felkeine having to fight back here, and the problem is, like, Mage doesn't do well as the defensive deck if they don't have resource generation. And right now, Felkaine's running kind of short.
Right. I mean, you know what it is, and you kind of want it, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm laughing at Ray of Frost, man. Oh, this game. Who would have thought?
Not me.
The future is clear. Your demise be near.
Yeah, weird visual bug that still exists in the game. Lazul shows you the natural mana cost, even though you do receive it discounted. A little bit jarring at times.
It's like the collection version of the card, right? Not the actual card.
Well, it still shows you the stats, which is weird, but it shows you the original mana cost.
That's true.
Yeah, it's just a weird little visual bug. No real justification for it.
Zhym slowly building up the Lucent Bark once again. Okay.
Okay.
We're in.
I'm going to predict this is going to be significantly less good.
Whoa! Wait, is that good or bad? Wait, has Felkeine played Evocation this game? Is Evo his last card?
No. His last card is a Ray of Frost, I believe.
Oh.
Oh! So, spell to
Hester,
check
yep.
what the secrets are, and then rip either your Plague of Death or your Zephyrus, however you would like to go about doing this.
I think I like Plague here, right? Just get rid, and then Zephyrus, along with Galakrond, will be how he will plan to end the game. I think trying to, like, what would he do here? Zephyrus into what? Right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to work it out. Like value trade plus Shadow Flame or something, and you get to preserve a board. But then it could still be Spellbender to mess you up, I guess. So yeah, you probably just rip it. Makes sense.
Yep. Have Zephyrus be your game-winning play and not the defensive play, right? Because Plague only has one job all the time, right? Whereas Zephyrus can flex.
Yeah. I really wanted to find some line that like efficiently cleared for not very much mana, and then you fit a heal in as well, right? Because the sooner you can get a Lucent Bark back, the sooner you can stop worrying about every board that just gets thrown down by your opponent.
What to do?
Maybe you could Zephyrus into heal. Who knows?
Oh, if Zephyrus read Lucent Bark text, oh, insane.
Just like Radiance, just all the time. Whenever Lucent Bark's on board, even if it's not in dormant, it's like Radiance.
Yeah, last card was Rare Frost for Felkeine.
Yep.
Is it cold in here? Or is it
Felkeine waiting one turn for a minion to come down here, so he can just go all in with the spells on this turn. He can now cast Evolving Missiles because there's a target for it. The dormant minion doesn't count. And he can then rip the 2 copies of Ray of Frost after the fact as well to get his Shambhala activation.
Yeah, I also think though we can see this is going to need to be a box from this Mana Cyclone, or I guess potentially Power Up Creation, because Felkeine needs another wave. We can see Zhym just has Zephyrus.
No!
He said it, didn't he?
Not like this! You said the forbidden words.
Zhym could have just relied on going Zephyrus into Twisted Nether, for example, for the last push. These spells do have to be feared at least a little bit here for Zhym.
Yeah,
Information on the Netherwing pole.
I was like half a turn slow on the uptake here, because when Felkeine passed, it took me a moment to process like why he even passed in the first place. But then, like, having now explained that out loud, you kind of have to question why Zhym even had to play a minion from this point.
Right.
When he knows that Felkaine's hand doesn't do anything unless he plays a minion. Oh, no. Worst possible timing for that to happen. Yeah, you can see it on Felkaine's face right now.
And you can't see it on Zhym's, which I think is the issue.
Zhym's camera appears to be stuttering and freezing a little bit here as well, so it appears he is having some internet issues. Hopefully he can stabilize to make his way out of this game.
There was hovering right between the DCs. There we go, yeah, there is card hovering, so he is still around. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
God, I love that that's a feature that got put in. I think it's one of the best things we've had.
Okay, this box needs to do everything except draw cards. And that's the one thing box loves doing.
Okay. Oh,
Obviously, there was no other possible start. More Lucenbark was always where we started here. Hello? No! Are you kidding me?
he knows. Shadow Step.
Shadow Steps.
The Blood
Blood Swan Mercy?
On the Lucenbark! What is going on?
He actually did everything except draw cards! That was a joke!
That's not supposed to happen. Is it even enough, though?
There's 16 points of taunt in the way.
But there's Pyroblast and Fatigue.
There is.
You're not wrong. One Pyroblast.
You're not wrong. You're raising good points right now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's insane. Value trade. 6 to face. Pyroblast lethal next turn. He doesn't get 6 to face, though, because it's Flame Ward. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what the Mage secret is. It's been hanging around for a few turns, I think. But he hasn't been attacking face.
And he's not played a minion into it, right?
No, he did. He he played the Kobold Spellkin that all the Ray of Frost stuff went
was
onto.
it up then? Oh, okay.
So. Unless it came from that box and it's just the same secret that he had before, then that's a very old Flame Ward.
Yeah. Okay.
Your flaws are your strength.
Okay, as long as this attack goes face, the game ends.
What Fatigue is actually Felkeine? I didn't even keep track.
Felkeine takes 4 next turn.
Oh, so Pyro's not actually enough.
Mm-hmm. So as long as this attack can go face, the game ends. However, this attack does not go face. Because outside of the Flame Ward, the other secret now is Misdirection. So Zhym actually needs to just survive one more tick and then kill on the Fatigue ticks next turn.
This might be the way to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. He knows he can't do enough damage and get through all the armor. And that is going to be the game. That is going to be the series. And what a game to end that series. And this is just Pyroblast left, right, and center. My kind of Hearthstone. And congratulations to Zhym taking the win there. And that is going to put him up to, I believe that's 3-1 for Zhym. And that means Felkeine is on to, what was that, 3-2 now?
3-2, yep.
Huge deal for Zhym, actually. That's actually a pretty good score so far, 3-1. It doesn't mean he's played like a one match less than some of the others, of course, but that's a huge deal.
Yeah, so Zhym is now, essentially ahead of his countryman and compatriot, if you want to look at it that way. Same number of wins, having played a match less, and having the head-to-head against them from that victory as well. So that puts him in a pretty strong position overall in that group. But that series devolved very quickly into Wacky Town, Raven, and I'm not quite sure I like it. Zhym did get over the line, but I think it was kind of